Greetings to all. This is a session on American School of Diffusionism, third in the series when we are discussing on diffusionism school of thought. So, as we have discussed, diffusionism seeks to understand culture in relation to the origin and spread of culture traits. The school of thought was pioneered by Boas, Whistler, and Kroeber. The American school discredited the universal sequences established by the evolutionists. It refined the German diffusionism also in terms of the lacuna observed by explaining the reason for diffusion and where the culture circle approach of German schools have failed down. Now, the basic principle of American School of Diffusionism states that the diffusion of culture from one place to another is caused by the process of imitation. So, the borrowing of the traits from one culture group is easier at times than to invent them within one's own culture, right? Now, the group which borrows a culture trait, it adopts to the suitability of the needs of their own culture. Therefore, this diffusionism and the modification of the culture, they are the two principles on which the school of thought operates. Now, the diffuse traits are more similar in the areas which are residing in a particular geography. The process of diffusion is more prevalent among those cultural groups that are residing in close proximity to each other than which are quite far away. Now, to explain diffusionism, the scholars have devised this methodology of culture area approach. So now culture diffusion as a concept itself was classified into two by the scholars, into natural diffusion and the organized diffusion, where the natural diffusion is a concept when the culture traits of one group which diffuses into some other group or say some other cultural group by mere trial and error method, or say some indigenous method, such as there are cultural exchanges, there are economic exchanges within the tribal groups. So that could be a form of natural diffusion. Whereas on the other hand, the second one was the organized diffusion, which is assumed to be very quick, transmitted through organized activities like missionaries, invaders, contacts with the inhabitants of different cultures, etc. Now, there was another concept of culture climax that was propounded by Kroeber. He said that the civilization advances by borrowing and integrating the traits of other civilization through diffusion, but there comes a point when a particular civilization reaches its saturation point and it's not able to accept the new traits. So that is the point when we call it as the cultural climax. And this phase generally might be the dead end, or it might start spreading its traits to the other ones, to the other cultural groups. Now, what is this culture area approach? This hypothesis, the culture area hypothesis, it was emphasized by Clark Whistler. It was supported by L. Kroeber and many others. Basically, culture area is defined as a geographical area which is occupied by groups whose cultures show a great degree of similarities when they're grouped together. So the principle here is to divide the world into different cultural areas on the basis of the geographical regions. And so Whistler defined this, the concept of culture centers, as those cluster of culture traits in their pristine forms, and they would further act as the center of cultural diffusion. So from one area, they prepare a list of cultural traits, then compare between different cultural areas, and their development is traced, and thereby the tracing of the spread of different culture from one place to another takes place. Okay. He also emphasized that it is not the cultural traits that diffuse within the same area, rather it is a spread from one culture area to the another. Furthermore, this diffused traits modify as per the need of the borrowers. Thus, the culture area approach enabled the scholars to explain why and how the diffusion takes place, not merely sticking to what the diffusion is, they explain the process itself. So they were also able to show the modification of the borrowed traits by the cultural groups, along with the barriers to diffusion like geographical constraints, etc. They also laid down some guiding principles to the theories that were later propounded, for instance, historical particularism, the theory of culture climax, the age area hypothesis, again propounded by Whistler. So, yeah. So, considering the three different culture areas, which are in a closer proximity to each other geographically. So within this culture area, we have the core of the culture area, which consists of a culture center. Within that, there is a culture trait that becomes the core of the whole culture area, and the culture margin through which the diffusion takes place. So this was the whole concept of culture area. How do you delineate the culture area as a concept? Okay, but there were critiques to this hypothesis again. Firstly, this approach was quite static in nature. By dividing the world into regions, it completely narrows down the scope and it cannot explain how worldwide diffusion of culture took place, right? Furthermore, it did not account for the effects of migration or um, because that is very important factor making it difficult to trace the culture centers and the boundaries itself. Okay. Now, another extreme caution is required in delineating the culture areas and its marginal areas. Again, coming on to the concept of migration, because those boundaries could not be exactly delineated. Furthermore, the concept cannot be simply adopted where the distribution of people is characterized by social stratification. Okay. Now, there was overemphasis on the material culture and the failure to explain the non material aspects of the culture that comes as a critique to the diffusion school itself. Moreover, the process of listing down culture traits was again confusing and was time consuming again. Despite this, the American school, which highly emphasized on culture area hypothesis, it did develop the several new concepts and approaches that were used even today in the historical studies. It also paved the way for a valuable future studies in terms of the socio-cultural arena. Okay. Now, from the culture area hypothesis itself, Whistler hypothesized the sage area hypothesis. This hypothesis stated that if culture trait is found in a wider area, it can be inferred that it has diffused a long time ago, right? So, hence, the greater the distribution, the older is the element. He stressed that a complete study of diffusion is possible only when we combine this time and space factor, that is, using the culture area and the age area hypothesis together to understand diffusionism. Basically, from each culture area, there was a listing done similar to the culture area and again determining the traits. But in this, now we are doing it relative to each trait. So, trying to understand chronology of each trait and thereby understanding the process of diffusion. So, concluding this American school, basically diffusionism resulted in the creation of this concept of culture areas, and that's a very crucial concept in terms of social studies, which were contagious elements in relative to the small and geographical unit. Even though diffusion school of thought has replaced more holistic approach in mid 20th century, but this concept of diffusion still has a value in the ethnological sciences. The studies involving diffusion of ideas and how they affected and motivated the innovations that have been of a great value in many other fields like agriculture, geography, history, rural psychology, sociology, and etc. And there was this concept of acculturation studies, which later on helped to give the insights into the problems that have encountered when people from diverse cultures they come into a dominant culture, and so on and so forth. So diffusion as a culture, um, sorry. So diffusion as an anthropological school of thought, it was a viable part of the development of anthropological concepts. But how the societies changed due to this spread of culture traits and independent inventions, that was completely understood through this um, uh, concept of diffusion. But however, it has suffered with the ethnocentric bias. As a school of thought, it was only a small part of what should be the total analysis of the world culture on a more holistic approach, right? And it stemmed from the play of this diffusionism against evolutionism. It provided more of adequate understanding of the overall picture. So this was more or less about your American School of Diffusionism. Kindly write a short note on the critical analysis of the approach of American School of Diffusionism. Kindly use the keyword approach. And if you have any suggestions or feedback, you may write down in the comment sections below. Thank you for your time.